At this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Audrey Young to come forward and introduce the congressman for us. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Pete Sessions believes the United States of America is the greatest country on earth. Do y'all agree with that too? And is a strong advocate for civility among our elected officials. As a member of the 119th Congress, Pete is a voice of balance, reason, and common sense. A native of Waco, Texas, Pete attended local schools until the 9th grade. His father, Judge William Sessions, led a successful career as a federal district judge and was appointed to serve as the 4th district judge and was the Bureau of Investigation under the President Ronald Reagan. His father's leadership instilled Pete with a sense of duty and integrity for elected and non-elected roles in public. Pete attended Winston Churchill High School in San Antonio. Afterward, he graduated from Southwestern University in 1978. After college, he began working for the Southwestern Bell Telephone Company. Over his 16-year career, Pete never missed a day of work before retiring as district manager. It's incredible. He was first elected to Congress in 1996. Throughout his 24 years in Congress, Pete has been an integral player with the Republican Party. He spent a decade in Republican Party leadership and was instrumental in the House majority balancing the federal budget from 1998 to 2001. Pete was chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee from 2009 until 2012, leading to a net 63-seat victory in 2010. From 2013 to 2019, Congressman Sessions served as chairman of the House Committee on Rules, where he revived bipartisan efforts and accelerated the Republican agenda, and is the chairman of the Subcommittee on Government Operations on the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. No member of the Texas delegation has passed more legislation off the floor than Congressman Sessions. Notably, he sponsored and passed the Border Tunnel Task Force Act in 2018 to create a directorate to intercept illegal tunneling operations on the southern border. One of Pete's key accomplishments was sponsoring and passing the Family Opportunity Act of 2005, which enables families to medically stressed children to receive comprehensive health care. The bill became law in 2006 after Congressman Sessions and his son Alex worked with President Bush. Congratulations. Pete has always valued his community involvement throughout his life. He, his father, and 2 sons are Eagle Scouts. Over the years, he has served in various leadership roles with the Boy Scouts of America, Disability Assistance, and local conservative groups. He also devoted 12 years to serving on the Board of Trustees at his alma mater, Southwestern University. Congressman Sessions lives in Waco, Texas, and is married to Karen Sessions. They are the proud parents of 5 sons. Bill and his wife, Kale, are both doctors living in Austin, Texas. Alex is a special needs young man who works for Home Depot in Austin. Connor is a U.S. Navy veteran, and Liam, a 2020 graduate of Baylor University, and he lives in Florida. Nichols is a senior at Rollins College and a member of his college golf team. Welcome, Pete Sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Young. Appreciate it. Dr. Young, thank you very much. We're not going to blow everybody's eardrums out. And people in the back hear me just fine. Thank you, Melinda, thank you. Thank you for taking time to be here. I'm gonna run through very quickly, if I can, some important people in my life, and I think ones that at least the judge and others count on. Number one is speak up. I'll speak up. I'm sorry, I thought I could. Okay, we're gonna try this again.
It's a little too far away.
Oh, it's too far away. You can hear that one. Okay, got three people want to introduce you real quickly. One is Melinda Carty. Melinda, come on back over here. Melinda Carty is called our East Texas coordinator. She has a bunch of counties, a lot of territory. Melinda would tell you she's been working with a member of Congress for 20 years. And she worked for Louis Gohmert for 17 and us for a couple. Melinda, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, we have a guy named Jeff Mursky. Jeff Mursky works for us out of our Huntsville office. Jeff, you went to college at a place, graduated in 1995. What was the name of that school?
Texas A&M.
Oh, Texas A&M, 1995. Jeff, yes, sir. I recognize that hat back there. Jeff does a great job for us, handles a bunch of counties on that side. Your favorite Republican Party chairman's here also.
She is.
Oh, right here, this young woman right here from Huntsville, Linda McKenzie, our chairman, thank you for coming. And then lastly, those of you who may remember one of the last times that we had a meeting here, we had a district director whose name was Kevin Burnett. Mr. Burnett was my best friend since 1976. Mr. Burnett passed away of a massive stroke the last day of April last year, and we had to replace him, and it's been a stunning thing for me. But we found a simply marvelous, not just manager, but an awesome person. Come on, stand up, Vicki. This is Vicki Mercer. Vicki is doing an awesome job. She has 14 counties and 9 employees that she gets to stay up with, and she says, I'm the biggest problem. So, Vicki, thank you. So for those of you who are here today, please know that we should have information that we passed out. We want to make it available to you. The way we operate is that we ask that you first visit me or call me with Melinda Carty, but all of our casework is centralized out of Waco, Texas. And Vicki's RESPR organization is up there, and we have a group of people up there who are very interested. Last point I'll make, please send anything to Waco. When you send it to Washington, it takes about an extra month. They send it to West Virginia, it gets irradiated, it comes back, we have to pull it apart, can't tell who it's from or what it says. Please do send any correspondence to Waco, Texas. I want you to know that being here today is a particular delight to me. While we scheduled this some time ago, little did I know that it would be the weekend before we're going to be having our budget that has been delayed by 3 weeks, but that we're going to have a budget that will go through the budget committee this week, and there are a number of people who are here that want to provide feedback on that. I get it. This town hall meeting is open to everybody, but I want you to know there will be some people today that completely agree. I agree with them, some disagree with me, but we want to make sure that everyone is treated properly and respectfully, and that is something that I don't have to insist on. I'd like for you to also, and we're delighted that you're here. Okay, I've got a few minutes where I want to give you a presentation of things that I'm interested in. One of them here is our schedule. It is important that you know that all the red dates, those are when I'm in Washington. And we are there for 5 longer weeks this year than we were last year. And we were there for about 2 weeks longer last year than we were then. So we're spending a great deal of time. Please note that A lot of Mondays are on here, which means that you will see me scheduled out of Waco, out in these other areas, when we have weeks when we are not in Washington. When would those be? Well, there aren't a lot of them, but I intend to make sure that we come to Lufkin and Nacogdoches. We will be doing town hall meetings there. We have done some. We've done some in Huntsville. We've done some in Latexo, outside of Crockett. We've done them around, and I'm delighted to say that you're the beneficiary of me this weekend, and thank you for taking the time to be here. Keep going, Jeff. Next, this is the 14-county district that we have, that the legislature gave us January, a full year ago. Please note that while I live in Waco, the western edge of this, we've come down to Round Rock and Pflugerville. Round Rock and Pflugerville are about 90 miles from my home. We then come over with our young chairwoman who's here from Huntsville, and then of course we're over here. The important parts that I think you need to know is that down here, this area right here, which is just outside of Milam County, there is more water underneath this area right here, more water underneath that is called surface water. There's something called groundwater and surface water. There's more water, surface water, underneath right here than all of the lakes in Texas. It's called the Carrizo. This represents a huge geographic change right in here of numbers of people and growth in Texas. The Texas Triangle that you've heard of, if we put the slide up for Texas, which we don't have one, there's a triangle going from Dallas through Waco, through Austin to San Antonio, over to Houston, and then up. That triangle is going to account for, between now and the beginning of the new century, Texas is projected to go from 33 million to 96 million people. That's what demographers tell us. And that is what leaders across this state, including myself, are trying to get us prepared for. Much of what you're going to hear me say today is preparing us for tomorrow. And to be ready for tomorrow means we've got to get it done today. There's a $40 billion wafer factory being built down there right now, 40B. And it is going to house what are the newest chips, these AI chips. And it is a brand new circumstance, and they expect they're going to have 12,500 employees, which means they're going to grow this area down here by several 100,000 people over the next 15 years. That will mean that this whole area will have not only jobs for our children, but it's going to have to start getting ready for what will be welders, painters, secretaries, mathematicians, the whole bit. And it's going to mean that this whole region in here down to Houston and up is going to be a part of a massive change. Texas is positioned that way, and we are positioned that way because of the way the way we responsibly live life. There are people who are moving from California. There are people moving from the Northeast, and you have seen this change, but I see it very dramatically. As I drive over 6 down to College Station or Huntsville, or 7 all the way across, it is a changing landscape. It's a changing landscape. Everything from pipelines to infrastructure. But our children need to be ready for it. Our universities are preparing themselves. I was at Sam Houston State University yesterday where I gave the commencement exercise to the 100th graduating class of professionalism at Texas law enforcement. They are gearing themselves up to be prepared for what is a new day and new time. And I'm very proud to serve as a member of Congress. But my job is to help prepare us, not only for what we're doing today, but prepare us for tomorrow. Okay, Jeff, let's go to our slideshow here. I want you to know that, as if it's something that you haven't caught on to, I am what is called one of the co-chairmen of DOGE. What is DOGE? DOGE is this Article 1 group of members who are completely aware that what has happened, especially in the last 4 years, has been distressing to the American people. I don't need to sit here and beat anybody up, but I will tell you that we have hundreds of thousands of federal workers that have not gone to work. And we have had everything from beginning, the first instances we saw where you couldn't get a passport, to the need for President Biden to say he needed 80,000 new people at the IRS. Yeah, because they don't go to work.
Yeah.
All the way to moving forward, Veterans Affairs, the debacles that we had at VA hospitals, the inconsistencies of behavior that have taken place all across the government. So I began as the subcommittee chairman for government operations. I have oversight over any government operation in the world. We have the jurisdiction, not for the policy, but how they do what they do. And I've taken this very seriously, and over the last few years, we've held a number of hearings to figure out the old word that goes, follow the money.
Yeah.
The administration notified us over $400 billion in COVID money went to the wrong places. So we first had to look at, I did, part of the responsibility of the subcommittee, why did those $400 billion go to the wrong people? Are we just going to blow it off? No, we're not. And so then that has led us to the general viewpoint that we have taken with GAO, Government Accounting Office, that we wanted to have a hearing to say, what does waste, fraud, and abuse look like across the government? We held a hearing. They very clearly said, over any 3-year period going back and moving forward, they expect to have $1.7 trillion worth of waste, fraud, and abuse. My friend, who is Mr. Mfume, who is a Democrat, who sits, he's a Democrat, an African-American man from Maryland, he, just like I said, this is unacceptable. We need money to go to the American people for where it was intended, for the reason why it was intended. And so we held these hearings. He and I did this together. We're completely alike. And they ended up saying there will be more every year until we fix our problems. What are some of the problems? Now I'm talking about why I'm in DOGE. And that is that we have discovered that the prior administration, perhaps even some before that, I'm not trying to pin the tail on the donkey. It could have existed when President Trump was there. Could have existed when President Bush was there. Forget that. Let's fix it. And they said that the people, at least when they felt like they were not going to work every day, did not correctly or properly run the files that come from states when people die. That data and information goes to the VA about VA payments, it goes to Social Security, it goes to Medicare, it goes to Medicaid, it goes to student loans. The data and information was not properly being vetted across government. That was one of the primary reasons they did not have data. Billions of dollars were spent by sending checks to people that got cashed even though they died weeks, months, years earlier. So what we're trying to do is establish a beachhead in working with the administration to take the things that we had seen, bring them forth and work with the administration. And the first one is, they gotta go back to work. And I'm insisting, and I've talked to the president about it. The president did something that's now being criticized, is he can't make it that, he can't put that much money out there. The president said, look, if you don't want to come to work, I get it. But let us know in 2 weeks, and if you choose not to, you can just send us, check the box, let us know. We will keep you on the payroll till the end of September, then you will be done.
You hit. Those weren't the only ones you hit.
And I will guarantee you what happened is, what the word she just said, it hit the fan. And other people didn't like it. They did not want there to be a reduction in force. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have a reduction in force. We wanna have the people that do not wanna go to work to get what is market oriented. We'll still give you some incentive. We'll see you later. Thank you very much. We don't kick you in the can. We gave you a nice exit. It's not working the way I think the president wanted. They came back. I'm involved in a full fight. So is the administration. So what we want to do is to let you know that I have been on TV. Go back one, Jeff. There's Mr. Mfume, my dear friend. I've been on TV about 20 major stations, networks over the last 3 weeks, trying to provide context and information to people. The American people are entitled, and anybody here today is entitled to ask a question. And I will do my best to try and answer those questions. The bottom line is the president's been president now, second term. I think it's a month and a day now. I think yesterday was 1 month. Are they running fast? You bet they are. Did President Biden run fast? Yes, he did. Did he make decisions, just like President Obama made decisions that had not been well thought through and executed? Doing the same thing now. And I admit that. And so we're not getting behind on this. We're learning about it and trying to put it in the context. That's my job too. So we'll keep going, Jeff. So this is Mr. Mfume. He and I are good friends. We work together. He is a very, very nice man, but does not want government money to be wasted either. And that's what I think DOGE is about, government efficiency, working together, finding ways in which we can craft a better future for our children. Keep going, Jeff. Okay, the question is now, who are we working with? The president's off to a fast start. Here's his list of people. There's some people on there that I do not know, but the vast numbers I know personally. I know who they are. I've worked with them. Christy Nome is a friend of mine. She was in the House for 6 or 10 years. Doug Collins, who's at the VA, actually was on my committee at Rules Committee. I have a deep relationship. Sean Duffy at Transportation. So you can go down this list. I know Pam Bondi well. Marco Rubio and I are good friends. So there are people who I have personal context with and believe that we will stand a chance to work together, to listen to them, and gain some insight into where they're headed. And I want to make sure that you and the American people become beneficiaries. I can say some things differently than they do, but we need to have visibility as a member of Congress into the way things are headed, because we're the ones that come and meet with you. Jeff? Okay, what are some things that caused us to be where we are. Look, there's just difference of opinion. And President Biden had a House and the Senate, they did things, they chose to do it. But the bottom line is it's trillions of dollars that added up. And this is the one that disturbs me most of all. $2.3 trillion. I sit as a senior member of the House Financial Services Committee. What they did is they loaned the government money and kept people from going to work, where the president could keep handing it out and people could stay at home.
Because of
We-
COVID.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that for a year, but not for 3.5 years. And we went back to work in Texas because we did not have someone paying for that. $2.34 trillion was a loan because we weren't working. So we'll keep going.
Texas
I promise we're gonna get to you. So our job is to try and now come in and work, get the federal workforce back to work, decide what the right size should be, how many people we need. I am encouraged to tell you that the thing we're gonna have to turn our attention to is infrastructure, and despite what we've heard about all these years, about all these new computer upgrades and things that are going on, we still have a 50-year-old system that the FAA operates on, and we have started seeing, with the increase of traffic, how that is causing what I think are some of the problems on the ground where we're crashing planes. Couldn't have stopped the Delta thing where they said, do not land the plane, can't get into that. But can get into some of these other things where planes are colliding or are not hearing each other. We've got to fix things like that. We've got to get databases that are the high databases that have lots of information to be shared across government. We've got to make sure that we can't hold someone out from knowing when there's a death, when there's a problem, and the data and information. Keep going, Jeff. Thus far, legislation passed. I will admit, it's political. We've had virtually little help from our friends and Democrats, and that's all right. This probably is the biggest defining thing, and that is men competing with women. While it may be popular here, I want you to know that I think it's just wrong. I think it's just wrong. I've got a granddaughter. I think it's wrong to have a man competing physically against a woman. And Riley Gaines is a friend of mine, and Riley, who I met 2 years ago, said, Congressman Sessions, the man walked into our dressing room. I did not have my clothes on, a couple of the other girls, and they let him intentionally in there. We swam. I was an All-American swimmer. He was ranked 234th among men, so he came over to the women's division. We touched at the same time, and they said, too bad, we're going to celebrate his victory. You are not the champion, he will be. Wrong. NCAA, wrong answer. So I just want you to know that this is something that I feel strongly about. I think the American people did. Next, the fentanyl issue. The fentanyl issue is a big problem. It runs the same rail with having an open border. You have an open border. I've been every mile of the border, albeit most of it in a helicopter, but I have seen it. And we still have not secured our border. And we've got to secure our border if we expect to be successful. But the drug cartels and the stories that are told by the DEA and so many people who've come here is still one that we're gonna have to keep working on. Okay, Jeff, what's next? We are gonna be involved in, and I am as the co-chairman of DOJ, in not so much what the administration's doing, because we don't, they're running that, but we are, our portion to make sure we are writing the correct laws, putting things together that would allow databases and people to be seen and work together. We want to bring back, and I'm gonna insist upon this, that part of the work that every government employee has is to double check to stop this waste, fraud, and abuse. To look at and certify and challenge even, and I know we don't like that. Challenge people, all right, tell me who you are, where you worked, but they don't have the data and information to double check it. And tell me who you are, because we've got too many people that are fraudsters that are out there. That's gonna be part of everybody's work. We're gonna work with, as I am, with our military installations, and our academies, teach waste, fraud, and abuse. Teach that as part of every one of our jobs to ask questions. Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you here? What is your relevance? And while we sometimes don't like that, I sometimes don't like it, we can do it in a way that's off data. And instead of asking a person being self-reporting, it will be off data that we have that's important. So I think it's gonna be important. We've got to top this right here, this 1.7, I know it says 2.7 there, that's because we had that 400 billion 4 years ago that just blew the number out of anything normal. Jeff? Okay. This could be controversial. It's also factual. This is a friend of mine, Lee Zeldin, used to serve with us, he's EPA. What happened is that they had insight from people who said there is a lot of inside money that is being sent through the payment system that we cannot tell exactly where it went or for what reason. And the people who run these most sensitive areas thought that they had hid this, I'm going to say that again, hid this from a new administration in Treasury. Well, what happened is that these contractors, they are government contractors, they were already hired as government contractors, are very good computer specialists, and they came in and found the database that specifically we think was well hidden of payments. And this is what caused the first explosion. And it did, because the people who worked inside Treasury said they shouldn't have been able to get in there. Well, what they meant was they thought they'd hidden it. So this is Lee Zeldin making an announcement. Jeff, it may not be as loud, but we're going to try this.
EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, one of my very top priorities at EPA is to be an excellent steward of your hard-earned tax dollars. There will be zero tolerance of any waste and abuse. An extremely disturbing video circulated 2 months ago featuring a Biden EPA political appointee talking about how they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic, rushing to get billions of your tax dollars out the door before Inauguration Day. The gold bars were tax dollars, and tossing them off the Titanic meant the Biden administration knew they were wasting it. Following this revelation, during my meetings with members of Congress, I made a very important commitment to them and to the American people, which I reiterated at my confirmation hearing that if confirmed, I would immediately get a full accounting. Fortunately, my awesome team at EPA has found the gold bars. Shockingly, roughly $20 billion of your tax dollars were parked at an outside financial institution by the Biden EPA. This scheme was the first of its kind in EPA history, and it was purposefully designed to obligate all of the money in a rush job with reduced oversight. Even further, this part of $20 billion was awarded to just 8 entities, that were then responsible for doling out your money to NGOs and others at their discretion with far less transparency. Just under $7 billion was sent to one entity called the Climate United Fund. I'm sure you and I now have some of the same questions. How do these organizations decide how to allocate funding? How much money have they given out so far and to whom? Are there any former Biden EPA staffers who are now working at these entities? Let me make one thing abundantly clear. At this point, there is zero reason to suspect anyone.
To suspect that anyone intentionally was trying to evade or do the wrong thing.
Oh, come on.
No, hold on. He's trying to be, well, that's fine.
They're laundering money through organs of NGOs. And you know it, and everybody else knows it. And you all talk about it, but nobody goes to jail.
Okay.
Put them in jail.
All right, sir, he was providing information that Congress had asked him, and that investigation continues. And so we are going to continue that, but what I'm suggesting to you is Mr. Zeldin said at the time this was put out 2 weeks ago, he did not have that data.
Get out of my face.
Get out of here. Okay, go to the next one. Go to the next one. So what we're gonna try and do is we are trying to make sure that we are looking at, which is a very interesting thing as we're going through here, inflation, because that's what robs us, is government spending. And so that's where this week, when we go back, we are going to have a budget committee hearing, which I'm not on, who's going to then take these top line numbers and they're gonna play out how they're gonna play. So while we don't know yet, I don't like what I see. I'm worried about it. It puts too much debt, still, growth on the American people. And so that's what this week's gonna be about. Jeff, what's the last one? Okay, here's what I want you to know. Part of what this whole effort is to get online with Canada, XL Pipeline, for us to begin doing business, to that the money that it all goes today on 99% of it to China. We want to be the beneficiary of it. We want them to have to go get another source. And then lastly, we're still working on what we call go to the next one, Jeff. Of what we call the new future. And the new future is hydrogen and nuclear and solar. And we are going to go and push these, and they will be driven to batteries, which will provide the newest form of our ability to fund and take care of not just the plant that is down in outside of Round Rock, but we'll also take care of these big data centers now to provide us the data and information we need. Okay, that's my presentation. Now I want to open up the floor. Any questions? You want to take them a mic? Okay, so raise your hand. Vicki will bring a mic to you. There you go.
Let me get up, wait a minute. My name's Lewis Smith, I'm a veteran. My biggest concerns, I had two, and that young lady right there, that cute little blonde lady right there, I already answered one of them. That was about Social Security, she told me not to worry about it. The other question is, I understand what your DOGE is trying to do, it's a good idea, but I think you need a better spokesman than the one you got up there in the they got in South Africa is not doing you any harm. He's good. He's hurting you more than he's helping you. That's just I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I'm just telling you that I think y'all need to explain to dummies like me a little better what you're doing. And we're not hearing a good story coming across the TV or out of the papers. I like what you're saying, but you need to tell some more people.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I don't know what your question was on Social Security. But I think that there
She
are,
took care of me.
I think there still are.
I live on Social Security.
Well, there still are questions about Social Security, and we've got to be careful of what we're doing there, because Social Security needs to be sustainable.
There's 80 million of us.
I'll just tell you the truth. I go on it next month when I turn 70. So, what I'm saying is, but we gotta be sustainable. And right now, I'm not saying we're not sustainable, but the president has some ideas that we've gotta pay for if we're gonna do them. And we have to be able to pay for his ideas. As far as Mr. Musk is concerned, I think that he has made some statements that seemingly some make sense and some do not. And it will be my job to try, and as I showed you when I was up on the screen, I did some 22 interviews in the last 10 days. And whole bunches, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, Chris Cuomo, News Nation, Fox. I will keep doing that, and we are trying to learn things also. So thank you for your feedback. Yes, sir.
I'm Carl Casey. I was a constable here in Trinity for 16 years, and my heart doctor made me quit because of COVID. I took the one Johnson & Johnson COVID shot, and I've still got a clot in my heart. They can't do anything about it. What I was trying to do is see what my doctor made me retire, and on account of that, and I was seeing if I could get any more benefit from Social Security because of the clot that COVID gave me. And as far as y'all done a wonderful job as far as I'm concerned. But I just want to know if there's anything that I can make a little bit more on Social Security than what I do. I was a teacher, and when I retired, and the reason that I got Social Security benefits being a teacher is because when I was working for a construction job, Brian Roof, in Houston, I paid in my 40 quarters.
Yes, sir.
And I was just wondering if there's any more benefits could be done for that clot in my heart.
I am not a physician. I hang around enough of them. Myocarditis is a term that is often used that is associated with the risks that have been associated with taking, I don't know which of them, but I'll call it just the vaccine. And that is well under discussion right now in Washington. It took us a good bit of time to figure out what, as veterans may know, to get the PACT Act, which was those men and women of the military who came into contact with burn pits. And it produced something very definable that was in your body, and it attacked your lungs and your bronchial tubes and they then identified it and then could say that's where that came from. They're in process of doing this with myocarditis right now. Is it gonna catch you by the time we need it? I don't know, but it's under investigation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm John Watt. I'm from Nacogdoches. I'm the chairman of the Democratic Party there.
Yes, sir, and welcome.
Thank you. I want to applaud you for coming here and talking to us. My question today is, we have three equal branches of the federal government: the legislature, which you're a part of,
Yes, sir.
the executive branch, and the judicial branch. They're supposed to act as checks and balances on each other.
Yes, sir.
Now, I have a daughter that is 41 years old, that has had epilepsy since she was 8 years old. She depends on Medicaid and Medicare, as well as Social Security, like a lot of other people in this room depend on their Social Security.
Yes, sir.
My question to you is, if the two people that seems to be making most of the decisions right now decide to cut Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, will you be courageous enough to stand up to them?
Yeah, so these are good questions. First, let me tell you that that's about what we've heard. And there are a number of things that come under these programs, and I believe that what they're speaking about is people who do not qualify, not people who qualify. And God decided your daughter, God decided my son, who's a Down syndrome man. My son, I don't know your daughter, but my son cannot take care of himself. There are many other people who qualify today for these programs, and it would be a mistake, and I would not vote to take people who are legitimate American citizens off this. With that said, let me say this, that there are probably people that could disagree with me on this, but it's a pretty regular thing to understand that if you go on Social Security, let's say at age 65, 62, 65, and you are that age and you have someone under 18 in your household, they qualify automatically for money. And there's a member of Congress who tells a story, not I, because I'm not on yet, that at 65, he and his wife combined income 150 and 150. Their son started getting $1,600 a month. I'm not saying anybody knows in here how it works. But these are things that we are going to have to look at to sustain the system. And I believe that there are circumstances when there's a death of a person who was the provider as a death benefit, but not on a regular course of purpose. So I'm not going to tell you I will never touch Social Security. What I will tell you is that I believe we're going to do, for the first time in years, a top-to-bottom review of that. And I will come back and I will do a town hall meeting in your county and place myself before you and let you know about these options. But I don't know what they're proposing right now. I'm not going to say you don't, but I don't. I read before I got here today an article that was called the New York Times. And they laid out pretty carefully to them, it's fine with me, what the proposals are in their top line dollars. And it did mention Medicaid, and it did mention Medicare. I did not see Social Security in there. I'm not saying it's not in there. But what I'm saying is I do recognize that we do have people that I think should stay on, but I don't know enough about what they're going to do right now. And I was on TV the other night and had a first-term member try and school me about what my vote was going to look like. So I'm Chris Cuomo's show. And I did not take umbrage with him, but I did think, thank you for a first-term member trying to tell a 27-year member who was chairman of the Rules Committee, who knows that there are processes that you do of trying to tell me how I was going to vote. I, like you, and just like anybody else in here, need to see the facts of the case. I promise to come and be in your county and look you back in the eye and have to justify or discuss with you whatever I do. Well, yes, sir, and I didn't promise you, I'm just going to do whatever you want. What I've said is, there may be nuances in some of these programs that we may end up disagreeing, but I'm going to have to justify. But I do not think that two people that work need to give a son that's 17 money every month just because they went on Social Security.
Right.
Just because I don't know how it completely works doesn't mean I'm just gonna agree and never to cut it. So we're gonna review these. And this is what Doge is. It is not Elon Musk. It is to, in Article 2, it is to administration. And there it's to get prominent people who can dig information. Decision makers still need to decide. Thank you for coming and looking me in the eye. I hope I did the same to you.
I appreciate it.
I know you do, and I do you. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Representative Sessions. Thank you for being here today.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate it. And to answer your question, the House Ways and Means Committee has a reconciliation options. It's like 50 pages of just kind of ideas floating around on the budget. So you might want to take a look at that. And thank you, sir, for saying what you're saying about Elon Musk. I really appreciate that. You know, I get concerned when we have someone who's a volunteer at our highest levels of government representing the United States taking to X and making Nazi jokes. My father was a World War II veteran who liberated a concentration camp. So my question is, the president has said that he wants to eliminate the Department of Education. So as a parent of a special needs child who is in Trinity ISD, do you know what is going to happen to FAPE and IDEA and where those accountability measures might go? If you don't know the answer, that's okay. Thank you.
Well, but may I talk about it?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. But now I'm gonna talk about it. Because I have a son, and though he's now 31 years old, we went through IDEA. I have great understanding about parents like you and others who have a responsibility and are counting on there being a relationship with educators who necessarily do know more than I do, than we do. So here is my idea that I think is a common thought among members of Congress that I think we could respond to. And that is that we believe that the Department of Education is about $251 billion a year. It has grown rather substantially. It grew under a guy named George W. Bush. It grew substantially under a guy named Joe Biden. The size and scope of the agency, the rules and regulations, the amount of dictates and things that it did, in my opinion, have caused a diminishment of scores, a growth in school districts of every time they scratch a pin, they hire 10 new people, 100 in DISD in Houston, that I think has diminished the effectiveness of schools. I think the rules and regulations of transgender, of all these other things, I think it got out of hand. And I think what we're saying is going to happen is they're going to take the $251 billion, school lunch programs are in there, student loans are in there, a whole bunch is in there. But about 10,000 employees are in there that have been used for political pawns and tools. And that I think many people in America view, this is a problem. It's a problem to say you don't have to pay back student loans. It's a problem, okay, you get that. I don't have to keep jumping on that. To answer your question, I believe what is going to happen, and there goes your State Board of Education member right now, who's a very dear friend of mine, and I fully support her, as well as a man who is from Lufkin, as well as a guy who's from Lampasas. I know these people. They've taken time to get to know me. I think what we're going to do is take out the rules and regulations, we're gonna say, we're gonna translate this to, and it's math, but it's getting the information. I'm a 10th Amendment man. What does that mean? That means I give things back to the state, not the individual school districts. Because that will it'll take more people up there if we decide what the school districts get. Divide it up, send it out, send it to Texas, here's the reporting, here's what's been done. Your rules, regulations, not ours. We'd like to have you report back to us on these few things that you would naturally gather, but every school district in this country, quit sending us all these reports that we never even look at. And that we're not going to take the $251 billion and not do it. We still value education. We simply believe it's a value add when it's to the states. Now, if you ask me, that's what I think. That answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, you know, you always just think of your own child, and we have national standards for a reason, because we've had school districts that have not been they're not all on the same page in terms of how.
I fought those battles also out of Mississippi and Louisiana for IDEA when they were done. I was, fortunately for them, I was chairman of the Rules Committee. I doubled the amount of money in IDEA that the federal government would pay in, but I'm not for their politicalization of education. And we're gonna send it back and let Texas decide that. Appreciate you very much. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You know what, you're next.
Okay.
Sorry, that's my boss, and she said, he got the boss, okay?
Yes,
This-
you got a woman in charge, and I agree with that.
My name is Chris Harlow, and I'm going to move out under the speaker. I, like Carl, retired from teacher's retirement, and,
Yes, sir.
but I also worked in the industry for many years and paid in my Social Security.
Yes, sir.
And we were penalized by that and the Social Security because we have teacher's retirement. That's
Yeah.
another deal. That's not really
You
what I
have
said.
been, but as you know, we passed a new law.
And I'm waiting for that to come
Well,
show up on my
it's gonna
paycheck.
take them a bit,
I know.
and it is true that we did it.
Okay, but that's not actually what I stood up for.
Okay.
The president mentioned something on TV that with helping IVF more affordable, and I think that's a good step. Unfortunately, I think making adoption more affordable is even more important. As a parent of 7 adopted children, this is important to me for the next generation. Unfortunately, adoption has become big business and costly.
Yes, it is.
Typically for private adoption, $60,000+. We went through the state of Texas and the CPS to adopt our children, plus a problem in my first wife's family that we adopted those 6 kids. In my second marriage, she was adopted, her brother was adopted, her son, my stepson, was also adopted. So we're big on that. My daughter, who is with me tonight, or today, did foster care because it was too expensive to adopt. Unfortunately, foster care has so many little facets, and they jerk your heartstrings around, and it's been very difficult. That hasn't worked out. But we would love to see if they can help with all these other things, and because we've changed all the rules, and these unwanted children need a place to go, and I would love to smooth the ways for more qualified people to be able to adopt. And if they, that $60,000 figure is just unmanageable for almost everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much all I had to say. So, thank you very much.
Years ago, you heard up front where there was talk about a family opportunity. Vic, this young woman here. Huh, no, I promised this lady. Man, we'll be back to you.
The man's in charge again. The man's back.
Okay.
We gotta take turns.
What I'm saying to you is that we had a problem years ago, and in 2005, I got it fixed. federal law, and it said if you had a child that was medically in distress, needed help, most of them upon birth and then for about 3 years, that if your family, generally speaking, this is a long story, it takes one person of the family to quit work to take care of the child. But if that family, when they did, they lost half their income, and what happened is a little boy, I pick up my own mail, I read my own stuff. Dylan C. James out of Seagoville, Texas, Dad took a $700 end of the year bonus and dropped them where they did not qualify under Medicaid. So the child had had 13 surgeries the parents had to pay. I very quickly got involved. It took me 8 years. My Down syndrome son one day was in the White House, met George W. Bush. They knew each other, but my son said, I didn't coach him. Mr. President, thank you for helping children like me.
Oh.
This is a true story. I was there. George W. said, Congressman Sessions, what is Alex talking about? I said, Mr. President, I didn't coach him, but we've had this bill for 8 years. I got a call 2 weeks later in 2005, and President Bush said, I intend for it to be on the next must-pass piece of legislation. What it does today is a family up to 400% of poverty, which is generally about $200,000, if a family has one of these children, they automatically qualify for Medicaid. They get what they need, sir?
Of course, we were dealing with the cost of adoption, so.
I agree with that, but what happened is that if the parent couldn't afford it, they were given to the state, and the state paid $50,000 for a family to take them and then just do the same thing that the law did. But they had to give up legal authority to their children. So it was, there were some 700 children in the country whose parents gave them up to the state to take care of them, and it's the parents' point. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm Cheryl Savage, and I'm a resident here in Trinity County, and a Democrat right now. But my main interest is in campaign finance reform because, you know, both sides of the aisle see that that a lot of people are appointed and our government is bloated by political representatives on both sides. And we'd like to see, I think, both sides of the aisle, I think I can confidently speak, less billionaire influence on our political system and more affiliation or responsibility to represent the people who voted for you, not the 1,000 billionaires. So can you tell us what Congress is trying to do to have campaign finance reform? And also, I'm glad you mentioned the Government Accountability Office, because I'm a retired CPA, and I know they're the auditors of Congress, your auditing arm. So I'm glad to hear that you're working with them, and it's not just up to Mr. Musk, what's being done to our systems. So why does the Government Accountability Office report that they have 5,600 recommendations that haven't been acted on by Congress? Is that because of the influence of the large amounts of campaign finance largesse that are going to our representatives? I don't understand why Congress isn't acting on what the auditor's recommendations are.
I began in 1997 what is called the high risk series. We changed it to where the things that are high risk, where there's waste, fraud, and abuse, the Pentagon could never pass an audit. The HUD gives money to make up the name of the city, and they could not pass an audit. They failed to do that. It's just perennial waste, fraud, and abuse. and they do give recommendations. I'm pleased to tell you, I didn't really have a lot to do with it, but for the first time since in these 30 years, the Marine Corps passed an audit. DOD didn't, but the Marine Corps did. And they got a C. In their book, C is passing. Okay? You call it average, that's a pass. And the Marine Corps did it because they intentionally wanted to. And they did it because they spent time, because the commandant said, we're gonna be there. And it is hard. It's hard. It's hard when you give money to an agency in Denver. It's hard when you give it to the VA. It's hard to get them to, it just is. It is not because of political money. It's because of political will within the agencies and within the granting process to follow up with it all. But what disturbs me is when the Treasury Department sends things to someone. So, there was something, nobody asked me to explain this, but I will. There's an organization, you can look it up, called F-18. No, I'm gonna get the name. But, they're an organization that was begun several administrations ago. And this organization brought in a whole bunch of new people, and they brought them into, it's called 18F. You can look it up, 18F. And they brought in about 100 people from outside, new college graduates, brought them in the White House, Barack Obama, did the right thing for the right reason, but then said, y'all need to figure out what you're gonna do to pay for yourself. They ended up saying, we are gonna be the front side to, this is .gov, where you come into .gov and go to the IRS, where you go to Social Security, but you come into a website, .gov. 18F, these young people said, we are going to make sure that when a person comes in, we have to assure who they are. That you have to answer questions, there's biometric, there's data and information. We're gonna go back and search databases on everybody. You may come in one time, but it asks you to form a portal, report who you are. Complete fraud. They built the government for tens of millions of dollars, did not do what they were supposed to do, and went to the IRS and said, you can count on everybody that comes in through this portal, we will assure you who they are. They weren't. Was that because of politics? Was that because of the donations? No. They just didn't do what they were supposed to do. So that's why I was saying earlier, $400 billion went out because IRS, Treasury thought they knew who they were. We fool each other. No, it's just people not paying attention. Now, let's go to money. There are people who can give money, and people who do, and people who give money to the parties, and they do. But there are many times more billionaires that give to the Democrat Party than they do the Republicans. And it's just a fact. And there's a whole lot of stuff, if you look at certain entities, that they have $18 million and they're all less than $200 donors. They didn't even list their names. They don't have to if they're under $200. And so there are questions about, is that right? Did they really receive $15 million off people who gave $200? There's a lot of belief that, okay, there ought to be auditing and the FCC ought to do all these things and all that. If you ask me, and I was head of my party's fundraising efforts for 4 years. We're trying to follow the law.
The law's a little loose.
The law's a little loose, but that's not as a result. That's because people want to come give money without getting their name on some list. Because people call and go, somebody gave you $500, and they start calling and beating them up. So it's well intended, maybe a little bit of auditing ought to help. I appreciate you being here.
Well, you're my representative.
There you go, your favorite congressman. Well, we'll be a little bit short of that. You're very kind.
Oh, I am a retired teacher, and I have a very strong interest in education, and so I want to sort of piggyback on the question that was asked earlier about doing away with the Department of Education in Washington.
Yes, ma'am.
And you stated that you thought maybe we should. Well,
I do believe we should.
Okay, let me just mention this, that local property taxes in Texas are 28.6% of our budget. State funding is 23. Federal funding is 14 billion. Those are billions of dollars that I'm talking about. And as an educator who worked to try to get increased funding in the state of Texas, it is like pulling teeth. You cannot get that. Right now, we are ranked like 43 or 41 in state funding per pupil. And so to ask the state, how are we going to get this $14 billion plus more that we need? And also our governor now is trying to get vouchers passed, which means more money going to individuals who want to send their kids to private schools. How are we going to get it from the state of Texas?
Well, let me say this. That's their issue. I believe that what we should do is let Arkansas decide what Arkansas wants to do. They don't have to send any more reports to Washington. I do understand and have been raised through public education and believe there's a huge value to it. But I will also tell you that I believe that we have too many rules and regulations, and we're using out of Washington that as a whipping tool, and that's all I've really said. How the state of Texas does things, I hate to say this, I'm not your state representative, I'm not your state senator, and good for me, I very rarely go to Austin because I'm so busy doing these 14 counties. So, that was a cop-out, okay.
That's true, and
That's not a
I probably
cop-out,
shouldn't
that's the
have
truth.
mentioned the state part, but you mentioned several times about what the funding for federal goes to, special education. You do know that in all places, special education, we have more testing, so we have more kids there. When I was teaching, there was very little special education. My daughter is also a teacher. She has like 10 kids in each class with 30 or so, and 10 of them have special needs. You have to have people to help.
Ma'am, we're
You know,
talking
she
about
can't do
giving
it all.
every penny we give today, we will give tomorrow.
Wait, the president says you want to eliminate the Department of Education.
Okay, let me see if I can go back over this a
Okay.
minute ago. We're going to take the 10,000 people who write rules and regulations, who tell people what to do, who regulate education that I believe is a negative, who say you don't have to pay back your student loans, who tell people, including out of the Department of Labor, how you've got to treat transgender children, how you've got to treat sports to allowing girls. We're going to take those 10,000 and reduce that to, I'm not making this up, about 500 who would be there as specialists of Down syndrome, specialists of autism, specialists of all these things, and let them be national guidance people working with NIH, to where every state doesn't have to fly up to get this, and send the money back home. Send the money to the schools. I didn't say all 251 billion goes away. I said it gets divided up and goes to the states.
To the state or to the school?
State, 10th Amendment. That's why I said 10th Amendment.
State education.
Yeah, that we send to the state. But the schools would, whatever their calculation is, I'll be honest, I don't know how the state does the IDEA money. I just don't.
So you're gonna trust the state?
He's not the one in charge.
I am.
Greg Atkins.
Sir,
I am.
just due to time, this will be our last question.
Okay, great.
I'm back here.
I know you, but there's two people with their hands up. I don't know which one you are. Well, oh, you're over here. If you answer, we're gonna go 5 more minutes. You answer a question a minute, I'll answer a response a minute. You ask it a question a minute, I'll answer a response. And then this young woman, you ask in a minute, I'll get it back. 2, 4, 6. Go.
All right, first off, I'm Amanda Perry. I'm from Lufkin, Texas. I'd like to say that according to Open Secrets, out of the top 25 single donor donations, 18 of those went to Republicans, not most going to Democrats. There is a problem with money in politics, but it's on both sides, and it needs to be a fact that it is going to the Republican Party more than the Democratic Party, but it's a problem in any party. But that brings me to my question. Do you think it was appropriate for President Trump to launch his own cryptocurrency the weekend before his inauguration? Some are calling it a pump and dump scheme in which the president and his related businesses earned $100 million in trading fees alone, while approximately 810,000 people lost $2 billion. This money can be traced back to China as well as just unknown parts all over the world. Do you think this is appropriate? If this is not corruption, what is?
He was a private citizen.
You know what? I don't doubt anything you said. I don't know really anything about it. If people wanted to buy his stuff, they bought his stuff. And I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. I buy Dallas Cowboy stuff. Jerry Jones is in it to make money. Duh. You know what? You know
He
what?
was a private citizen.
All I'm trying to say is, I appreciate your points. I appreciate your points a lot. All right, yes ma'am, I got 2 over here.
They were very nice each
Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am, right there. Hi.
Thank you. You stated that the administration, the executive branch, is running Doge, but under our Constitution, only Congress has the power of the purse. The executive can only enforce laws passed by Congress. They cannot make laws. We have seen the executive branch illegally defund and fire and disband agencies created by Congress.
That's right.
Some of their actions have hurt your constituents. You mentioned that you were one of universities to help prepare children for jobs. He's defunded universities, National Science Foundation research grants. He's put a 15% cap on NSF, on indirect costs for National Institute of Health. That's devastating our cancer research and medical facilities in your constituencies. When are you going to wrest control as the Congress back from the executive and stop hurting your constituents? Because all that's left, if you won't do your job as the Congress, is for the courts. And the courts don't have a means of enforcing their judgments. Already, our president is ignoring court's orders. We had our reverend pray for our representation of democracy. It's over.
Okay.
It's a separation of powers.
I respect your position. I think I disagreed with Joe Biden when he disregarded the law too. He did it under executive order. The president, it has an agenda and he's doing things. Doge is in the House and our job is to do certain things that I've well delineated today. Waste, fraud, and abuse, government efficiencies, I'm gonna stick with that. And what I would say to you is that the president indicated the guidelines that he would be following. And the president, I believe, has followed those dictates. There is a fight. You've talked about it. I agree with this. I know there's a fight. He went to offer people, anybody that wanted to leave, a very favorable benefit. They're now suing that, saying he can't do that. The entire
Sessions,
Yeah, you can.
that's your 2 minutes.
Thank you.
We have another.
Yes, ma'am.
Just real quickly, my name is Michelle Malone.
Nice to go smart, you know.
We had some very, very serious problems last year with flooding. I think you all heard about that, you know, we had flooding and so forth. Our flooding last year. Yeah. And I'm very concerned with FEMA in the sense of what's gonna happen if FEMA is eliminated because of the National Flood Insurance Program that is 4.3 million people have that, which I'm one of these people. And if FEMA goes away, what happens to me and my flood insurance?
Okay, well, I know I gave myself 1 minute. I am responsible for the oversight. I went out to Hawaii. The Biden administration was responsible for all that. It happened, it was a mess. What happened in California is a mess. I think we ought to give the state of Hawaii, I think we should have given them $1 billion, which have been too much. They've spent $3 billion. They still do not have people in houses because the governor is living off, not giving people permits to rebuild their house back. There's a whole bunch of things, but if you give the money to the states, let them take care of it, like North Carolina, getting ready to go to North Carolina, they'll do a better job. So we gave you, your judge is here, and he will tell you, Judge, how much money you just get? $200,000.
But I'm
Took
talking
a while.
about the National Flood Insurance Program.
I know that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to figure out what's gonna happen there.
That's what I'm worried about.
I know we did.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, and yes, ma'am. Okay. Come on up. Look, I can't tell her she's a boss and then tell her she's not the boss. She's the boss.
Really, last question. Hi, Congressman. I'm 17 years old, about to graduate high school.
Yes.
How can my generation partner with you to help with our shared goals? How can we support you?
Well, the shared goals we have are people who are like this young man and this young woman came here and we talked openly. And I, for no purpose of evasion, nor someone even disagrees with me. We need to work together. America's greatest days are awesome. But let me tell you, the job we got against us 24 years ago, the gauntlet was laid down. That great American philosopher Woody said it, from here, Buzz Lightyear, from here to infinity and beyond. We better get ready. You're doing a great job. Stay on the target. I hope I did well enough to get invited back.